So Trump is trimming the US budget, and he's not just firing government employees, he's also cutting US aid. We're talking about government grants and assistance. This covers a whole lot of things: military aid to allies, humanitarian work abroad, research funding at home, also grants to colleges and schools. All of this counts as American aid. But Donald Trump halted it this week. He has paused most aid programs for 90 days. Why? To review them. Think of it as a political audit. Programs that fit Donald Trump's ideas will keep getting money. Those that do not will be cut off. Say there's an abortion clinic abroad or a conference linked to diversity policies. Those programs will not get US funding. We're talking about a lot of money here. The US government is the biggest international donor. In 2023, they spent $68 billion abroad. At home, it's even bigger. White House data claims $3 trillion were spent last year, $3 trillion in federal assistance. And where does all this money go? To things like medical subsidies or insurance, to grants for colleges, to diversity programs, to critical research, a whole lot of things. If you freeze that overnight, there will be chaos. In fact, that's what happened this week. Colleges and charities were caught off guard. Patients were unsure about medicines, so the US judiciary stepped in. A federal court has blocked one part of Trump's aid freeze, only one part, and that is the domestic part. Agencies or institutions at home will keep getting government money. But foreign aid remains frozen. Though the State Department is drawing up some waivers, they plan to keep life-saving programs running. What about military aid? Only Israel and Egypt will keep receiving military aid from America. The rest have been cut off. Now, there are two things to note here. First is the lack of clarity. It is not clear if Trump imposed a blanket aid freeze or which agencies it will impact, which is why the judge halted Trump's order. The second issue is the legality. In the US, only the Congress can allocate and freeze funds. The president can only make requests. It's the Congress that decides who gets what, which is why Democrats are up in arms. They say this is presidential overreach.
Without a shred of warning, the Trump administration announced a halt to virtually all federal funds across the country. This is a heist done on a national scale. No matter how much he may believe he does, the president does not have the authority to ignore the law, and we're going to fight this in every way that we can.
22 Democratic states have filed a lawsuit. They plan to challenge Trump's aid freeze. Outside the United States, there is confusion and chaos. Charities have begun firing workers. United Nations programs are scaling back their work, especially in regions like Gaza and Afghanistan. And in Ukraine, President Zelensky is nervous. He says military aid has not been cut off, but he's still seeking a report on the impact of President Trump's freeze.
This concerns many areas, from communications and digitalization to support for veterans, schools, hospitals, and reconstruction. Of course, the details of these programs were not previously a matter of state oversight, but the officials will present everything to me.
We'll see how the legal challenges unfold, but there's a bigger story here, the story of US aid. This isn't just altruism at play. This is also political. The US donates to nearly 180 countries. Who gets what depends on American interests. Look at the period after the Second World War. The Americans pumped billions into Europe and Japan. Germany received around $30 billion after 1946. This is amount adjusted to prices in 2005. $30 billion for Germany. And Japan got around $15 billion. And you can see the results today. Both these countries, Germany and Japan, are staunch American allies. Their own militaries are weak, so they're always dependent on Washington for protection. Now cut to 2010. America's interest changed. In that year, 2010, $4.4 billion were allocated to Pakistan and Afghanistan, and $500 million to Iraq. Remember, America was fighting wars in both these countries, hence the funding boost. Now, if you look at 2023, there is another change. Ukraine is now the biggest beneficiary, and Israel is a close second. Do you see the trend here? US assistance follows US interests. and they don't even hide it. Let me take you back to the year 2013. John Kerry was the US Secretary of State, and I'm quoting what he said. Let me be very clear, foreign assistance is not a giveaway. It is not charity. It is an investment in a strong America and in a free world. I know what you're thinking. Why is this a bad thing? Don't all countries pursue their own interests? Well, yes, they do. But America's interest may not be yours. And that's when problems arise. The US spends $2 billion every year on what they call is promoting democracy. They fund media organizations as part of this. They support civil society groups, and they claim to promote the rule of law. Now, all of this is American style. There is no focus on local nuances and realities, which means it is borderline meddling, and in some cases, very clear and obvious meddling. And we've seen that a lot in Latin America, also in West Asia, and in the Indo-Pacific. So how can you counter it? Well, humanitarian aid must always be welcomed. The US is the biggest economy in the world. They do have a responsibility to those less fortunate. Plus, foreign aid is just 1% of their budget. It's not a drag on the American economy. As for the activism aid, other countries must be careful. You can scrutinize where the American money is going, who is getting this money, and what are they doing with it. We've talked about China's debt trap on this show. The world should also watch out for America's aid trap. We're calling the show Vantage. We hope you like what we've put together for you. Touted as the minimum defense from that video. India's neighbors were the first to send the special edition of Vantage live from the White House throughout this week. Hindu Mandir we're on our way to Tel Aviv. Pretty measure, but it's also the perfect way to drive.
I don't think that
Prime Minister of Bhutan, Sherin Tagwe. Welcome to
60% of the world's
office. Prime Minister Modi did the iron.
we were actually
How are you doing? How do you like? It's been 1 year since that meeting. Iron bars separate you from the outside. Out the vote efforts. Trump had, it says, and at $4.3 trillion, 300 billion by 2030. That's what we need to tackle climate change.